Welcome and hello. This is a video tutorial on HEC ResSim, and in this lesson, I'm going to be discussing reservoir decision schedule and projected elevation. These are two advanced features that are part of the reservoir editor in the reservoir network module. So what I have on the screen here is a reservoir network with one reservoir and a couple reaches. So it's a simple network and I'm already in the Reservoir Network module. So if you're following along, go ahead and click that. All right, so what I'm going to do is open up the Reservoir Editor. I can do that just by clicking on the pointer tool or the reservoir tool here in the left panel, and then right-click, Edit Reservoir Properties. You can also access this menu by going Edit Reservoirs, and then you have the Reservoir Editor here. You can select your reservoir from this top menu, Reservoir 1. And what I already have here for this reservoir are a few things in the physical tab. There's a dam in the pool, of course, and then a couple outlets. That's not too important for this lesson. But in the operations tab, I have an operation set created, operation set 1, and then I have my zones with their top elevation value in feet assigned. All right, so what we're going to do in this lesson is to investigate the use decision interval feature and compute projected elevation feature. So go ahead and first of all, select your reservoir and then your operation set, and then go ahead and select use decision interval. So when I select that, a new sub tab appears inside the operations tab, and it's called DEC schedule for decision schedule. And also there's a checkbox that appears up here in the menu where we clicked. All right, so what we have here is a way for the user to tell ResSim when, like which particular intervals that the decision for a release from that reservoir should be made. So what we would do is the default here is every time step. And if you're going to use every time step, I don't really see a use of even invoking this decision schedule interval feature at all. But that is the default, and ResSim makes a decision on the release every single time step of the compute simulation. The other two options are regular interval and weekly schedule. So if I go regular interval, I have a new edit menu down here. It allows me to select the interval, the start hour, day of week, and day of month. Now, if day of week and day of month are disabled unless you select daily or weekly or monthly. But there's drop downs. So this interval of 1 hour, I have other options: 2 hours, 3 hours, 4, 6, 8, 12, and then if you scroll down, daily and weekly as well. It's important that you only select an interval that is a integer multiple of the time step for the simulation that you're running. So if my time step in the simulation is 1 hour, then I can select any of these options. But if my time step for the compute simulation was, say, 3 hours, then I would be able to use uh, 3, of course, 6, 12, daily, weekly, or monthly. But I wouldn't be able to select a smaller time step, and I wouldn't be able to use 4, and I wouldn't also be able to use 8 because those don't divide equally into 3. That's just an example, though. All right, so let's just leave it at 1. And then if it is 1 hour, then I would say the hour that it starts on. That's a little silly, but if it was, for instance, 4 hours, then I would go ahead and select the hour that it starts on, maybe 2 a.m. or 10 a.m. This is military time, so 1700 would be 5 p.m. And then it would repeat every 4 hours, in which case it would be 9 p.m., 1 a.m., 5 a.m., and so on. All right. All right, so if the last two options here are weekly. So if I select weekly, then I have to also specify which day of the week. And then if I select, and then the monthly drop down is disabled. And then if I select monthly, then the day of week drop down is disabled and it's expecting me to select a day of the month. All right, so that is it for regular interval. If I go ahead and select weekly schedule, you could just think of this as an irregular interval. So instead of it being a consistent interval of time, when we select weekly interval, it gives us the 7 different days of the week. And, these values could all be the same, but they could be different as well. So the user manual gives an example of something like this, say like 9 a.m., 1700, and that's Sunday. And then Monday, it might be 8 a.m. to say 6 p.m. and so on. So you can fill out this table that way. It basically says that you need to enter the times that your reservoir is allowed to make release decisions. Also, make sure to enter the numbers in military time ranging from 0000 up to 23:59 for 11:59 p.m. All right, so once you've got your decision made for your decision schedule, you can click apply to save or OK, which would save and close the entire reservoir editor. All right, so the other option I wanted to discuss in this lesson is the compute projected elevation. So let's go ahead and click that. And oops, it's asking me for, okay, we're good. What we see here is just a single value, and it's asking for the projected time window in hours. And this represents the number of hours past the current time step. ResSim is going to project the reservoir elevation. So if I leave the value here at 0, this would just mean ResSim is going to give us the expected reservoir pool elevation at the end of the current time step. But if I put a 1 here, then it would extend that estimate 1 hour into the future after the current time step. If I put a 6 here, this would be 6 hours after the current time step. So just keep that in mind. And then this last checkbox here is to use exactly what it says, use projected reservoir elevation to determine the operation zone. So this could be important because obviously different zones could have different rules and different priorities, and that could also affect the release of water from the reservoir. So that was it. That's your introduction to these last two features within the operations tab in ResSim. We had the use decision interval feature as well as the compute projected elevation feature.